Hey everybody, it's Troy. Listen, we've all been devastated with the news over the last day of the shooting in Allen, Texas. Just absolutely horrifying. Continuing to just be a devastating time in the United States with just mass shooting after mass shooting and nothing being done about it by the people in charge except for offering thoughts and prayers. But the responses to this one have been very interesting. If you look at the MAGA fascist garbage right on Twitter this morning, they are all ablaze with the news that the Allen, Texas shooter had right-wing fascist Nazi ideology. They're super confused about that, though, because of the fact that he is a Latino individual, that he is Mexican. They simply cannot grasp that a Mexican person could hold white supremacist views. Check out this video from Brian Glenn, who is the programming director at Right Side News Network, just a far-right Christo-fascist podcast network. He's on Steve Bannon's podcast talking about this. He also happens to be Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend. But listen to what he has to say about the identity of the shooter in Allen, Texas.
The narrative of who the shooter was, or who they presumed it was broken by that video that was shared on the internet over 4 million times. And people now know that it wasn't a white neo-national supremacist. That's not the narrative. And I'll call out the Wall Street Journal. They were actually, from what I can understand, the first publication to come out and say, likely a white supremacist, before the video was even released, before anybody knew who this guy was or who it was. Wasn't a guy, it was just a suspect. So shame on the Wall Street Journal. They were the first, but everyone else followed and just copy paste, Steve, copy paste, no hard evidence. This guy was anyway attached to a neo-Nazi white supremacist. He's a Latino. Okay, his parents had to have a translator with the authorities there. So this video just broke the narrative, Steve.
The very idea that a Latino person, a Mexican person, whose parents needed translators because they didn't speak English, could be a neo-Nazi, could be a white supremacist, is so baffling to racist white people who can't think of anything but race in terms of teams. Who's on which team? You can't possibly have a Latino be a white supremacist because they're on a different team from white people. Well, the news that's coming out about the shooter's background and his social media presence is pretty enlightening to exactly how big of a Nazi this guy was. This is his YouTube profile. It's got a picture of a character with a Hitler mustache. If you look on his posts, he's got posts of his tattoos, Nazi symbols, swastika tattoos, and he's got a Kevlar vest, which he wore in the shooting, with a patch that says RWDS. Now, we know RWDS stands for Right Wing Death Squad, because this is a patch that's frequently been worn by white supremacist hard right groups like the Proud Boys. They will wear patches like this with these sort of somewhat cryptic sayings on them. But RWDS, we know, stands for Right Wing Death Squad. That's the patch that the shooter was wearing on his Kevlar vest when he carried out this atrocity in Allen, Texas. So very clearly, this shooter, though he was Mexican, possessed very white supremacist beliefs, as baffling as that is to the garbage MAGA fascist right on Twitter and the MAGA ecosphere. But is this really all that shocking? I mean, the leading neo-Nazi in this country right now, the head of the America First Political Action Conference, is a Latino named Nick Fuentes, who dined with Trump. He's a Hitler sympathizer, a neo-Nazi. Nick Fuentes. The head of the Proud Boys is Enrique Tarrio, an Afro-Cuban, a self-described Western chauvinist, leader of the Proud Boys, who again wear these right-wing Death Squad patches and profess to far-right fascist views. Oh, and let's not forget Kanye West, noted Hitler-loving Nazi sympathizer Kanye West. Kanye West famously holding white supremacist views. So to say that it's impossible for a non-white person to hold white supremacist views is absolutely ludicrous. And it's now very, very clear based on what is coming out about the Allen, Texas shooter, that this guy definitely harbored these white supremacist views, definitely considered himself a neo-Nazi, at least a member of that movement. violent rhetoric, violent racist rhetoric on his social media, on his YouTube page. So very clearly motivated, the violence in this case motivated from a sense of white supremacy. But the garbage right won't hear it. They're completely baffled by this. They have to put everybody in little boxes and little teams, and it doesn't fit their worldview to have a non-white person engage in racism, engage in white supremacy. More will likely come out about this shooter in the next few days, and as it does, the garbage right will attempt to spin him into a member of a cartel or a Mexican gangster. They will try to really play up his Mexican heritage as much as they can to try and spin this into a border issue, an immigration issue, when clearly this gentleman is a homegrown white supremacist domestic terrorist, as are all these shooters, as are all these mass shooters. They are domestic terrorists. And until we get a handle on controlling who has access to weapons of war, who has access to assault rifles, these acts of terrorism are going to continue in the United States, and there's going to be more bloodshed. More innocent people are going to die. We've got to get a handle on this issue now. For MeidasTouch, this is Troy. Remember, smash that subscribe button to keep supporting independent media.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.